Welcome back to Gruber Motor Company and the Gruber Morning Show. I'm Pete Gruber.
And I'm Zane Courtney.
And we're here to entertain you this morning on anything alternative energy and EV related. The background picture that we have up here today.
Gorgeous, look at that.
Yeah, no, it's another one from the Tapatio Cliffs. It's the one around my neighborhood.
Yeah.
Remember I was telling a story about Bobby Gosnell and how he got the city to sell him this choice piece of property on top of a mini mountain range, and he put a resort up there, which today is actually the Hilton Resort. Yeah, so that's one of the pictures from up there. We'll continue to post interesting shots that I've taken over the years for you guys, for your entertainment. And it looks like we're already getting some questions here. There's a TikTok question.
There's a guy named Nico Lurks. I sell electric cars for a living in Finland, and in here we sell a lot of Polestars and Skoda and Yaks. Yep, checks out.
That would make sense, yes.
Yeah.
Yep,
Good local economy. Very cool. That's awesome. I wonder if you're through a dealership or private. Because that's a whole new thing. I mean, with Ford going away from dealers or giving them some kind of new deal, that's a big thing. So I'd be curious to know, Nico, what, or Nico, there you are on TikTok. Yeah, how you're able to be in the industry. Good stuff.
You know, whole new cottage industry selling electric cars.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
About it, yeah. Similar to ICE cars, but as Elon predicted, he would not go through dealers because he felt that the training just wasn't there, and that people are going to sell what they're comfortable with. So, Nico, it's commendable that you're focusing on electric cars. That's definitely the future. One of your neighboring countries, Norway, my God, they have a lot of electric cars there. They're doing a great job with it as well.
Yeah, Kyle Connor from Out of Spec has been up there testing some Neo EVs and things like that. It's amazing to me that they have such an explosive market up there, because in my mind still, and this is still a preconception I have, which might tie into one of the articles we're going to talk about, is that cold weather places just aren't great for EVs.
Yeah.
But Norway kind of seems to prove that that's not the case.
Well, or they're living with it, you know.
Or they're living with it, that's true.
You anticipate. You're not going to see, 100% range because you're running that heater and the battery's warming itself, but it's still much better than an ICE vehicle spewing hydrocarbons.
Yeah, right.
Okay, real quick before we
Sure.
dive in here. Pete, welcome back. You doing all right?
I'm doing good, yeah. For those of you that were curious why I was out for 2 sessions, I had an operation. It was a hernia operation, nothing major, but I've never had an operation before other than tonsils, which I kind of consider to be dental surgery. It's not real surgery, I thought. So I've been delaying this. I'm 71, so I've been delaying this for many years, and finally decided, you know what? This is a year to do it, because in our family, health insurance, we had met our deductible for the first time in a long time, because they're very healthy people, both my wife and I. So I thought this is the time to get any procedures done. So sure enough, I started the process and had some heebie-jeebies about how are they going to do this, am I going to be able to walk, all of that. But I'm telling you, it was almost seamless. I was up and around the next day and came to work the following day. So I'm here, I'm back, and much better.
We're glad you're back. Heck yeah.
All right, it looks like we've got another TikTok question.
It was from Nico. He's responding. So Teslas are not so reliable in the winter. People have noticed that older companies are something. But yeah, I've heard that it's somewhere around even a 25% range difference between summer and winter. Yeah. And that's true across multiple kinds of EVs. And there's a lot of testing that's still being done about that. But yeah, it'd be curious to, as time goes on, to see what those stats look like. From M. Tobin on Instagram, have you been following the Electric Viking YouTube channel? In fact, I do. I do. I've actually mentioned them a couple of times on this show. He's phenomenal. Yeah, at getting he's deep into the weeds on a lot of this stuff. Definitely worth checking out.
Yeah, there's so
We'd love
many.
to get to talk to you. Electric Viking, we would love to get in touch with you.
Absolutely, do some collaboration, and there's so many people that are emerging in this field, and they all have an interesting story to tell. They all have an interesting background, and it just accelerates the whole transition to more sustainable energy transportation. So we're 100% behind you, Electric Viking.
So And for Chris on TikTok, great job. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Well, do we want to jump into kind of that one of that first articles that you'd mentioned?
Let's cover some agenda items here. LG Chem, we talked about them before. LG is a large battery manufacturer out of Korea, actually. And we talked about this before, but they're building a large plant in Tennessee. And it's a $3 billion plant. To get our head around this, it used to be that $3 billion was just an incredibly unrelatable sum of money. Today, Twitter gets sold for $44 billion, Some of these companies are worth, hundreds of billions of dollars. It's just amazing what has happened to money, the value of money.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
But anyway, the plant is projected to be operational by 2027. It's going to make cathode parts for the lithium-ion batteries. And they plan to be able to service 1.2 million vehicles per year with this product. Now, 1.2 million isn't a whole lot in the overall scheme of things if you think about it, but this is electric vehicles, and there are many other companies making this type of product. So again, it's in the United States. It's going to be close to the manufacturing plants that are creating EVs, and they are citing ease of transporting raw materials and finished product as one of the reasons that they've located in Tennessee. So we're looking forward to them joining us here in the U.S. and building batteries. Or parts for batteries. By the way, what is a cathode? What is an anode? There are two different parts in a battery. The cathode is the rod that goes through the center of the battery, and it's the positive terminal. And in a battery, you have a transfer of electrons from the anode, which is the shell or the case, or the negative portion of the battery, to the anode, or to the cathode, sorry. And so anyway, that's what they're going to be building in this plant, apparently, is a bunch of cathodes. And it's an alloy. It's a combination of cobalt, and there's some aluminum in there. But apparently, we're going to need so much of this that we need a $3 billion plant on 420 acres in Tennessee. Good for jobs in the United States. It's good for the environment because we're creating the products necessary to transition.
Yeah. Also, with battery production, it's so interesting that they're specializing specifically in, you said cathodes, right? Mm-hmm. And it's funny because we already have a superconductor factory that's coming out here to Phoenix. So we're going to have, right, is it superconductors? Semiconductors. Yeah. So semiconductors are coming out here. Cathodes are going into Virginia. Mm-hmm. And so it's just kind of funny that so much of the industry, it's such a big industry that you need to part and parcel out individual components at a factory that scale. Mm-hmm. It's fun to watch. It's just fun to watch.
It is.
Yeah.
Actually, Arizona has had previous attempts to make it a particular capital of a certain type of electronic production. In the 70s and 80s, there was a big push for semiconductor manufacturing here in the state of Arizona. Mm-hmm. Intel was one of the first ones that came in. Motorola had been doing it. S.G. Thompson came in. And it was cool watching it. Even Honeywell at that time was involved in some of that. There's a strong labor pool for them to tap into. So once they have an existing skill level in a state, it attracts more business. What I'm really excited about this go-around, though, is the EV production that is beginning to take roots in Arizona. I mean, what do we have? Solo, we've got Lucid, Rivian, we've got
Atlas.
Well, right.
The other thing to remember too, Pete, is there's no natural disasters and there's no weather. People can work all the time here.
Good point. Strong labor pool, much less expensive than Silicon Valley. For years ago, when Tesla was looking to build a gigafactory, Arizona was actually on the list. And you know why we think that Elon decided not to build that gigafactory here instead up in Nevada? It was because Arizona wouldn't let him sell his cars.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
And you know, that's the legend anyway.
Huh.
And I could see that being the case because Elon's a no-nonsense guy.
Interesting. I didn't even know Arizona ever had some kind of embargo on.
Oh, NADA is a powerful.
Pretty much all states do.
Yeah, there are many
kidding.
states that still have that type of restrictive legislation on the books. And, you know, it made sense. It was like unions. They made sense, you know, what, 50, 80 years ago or so when you had child labor. But this whole NADA thing, not allowing a car manufacturer to sell cars directly, is strictly designed to limit competition and protect car dealers. And it no longer has any merit. How many people enjoy going to a car dealership to buy a car? I don't hear any cheers here or any hands going up, right? We buy online.
Yeah,
you know, we're
yeah.
used to using Amazon. We're used to using eBay. We're used to using our online tools. And there's so much information in the information age that can be embedded into websites to help you make an informed decision. Probably much better than that new commission sales rep they just hired at that local dealership who's going to throw BS by you to get you to buy or to attempt to get you to buy a car.
Yeah, and you know, I'm sure our friend in Finland can attest to that. That's selling EVs, I'm assuming third party, you know, just like a dealer does. And we were just talking about how Ford is making that transition as well. You know, with them and Lincoln both pulling out, you know, albeit not at the same time, but definitely faster than any other legacy automaker, making that transition to digital. And straight to consumer. It is hilarious how we've kind of come full circle on that. Because I had no idea about these EV embargoes, but now that you're saying it, it's like, isn't it funny that now we're kind of in the opposite position where now we have the ability to sell direct to consumer, get them the information that they need, and just let them buy on the spot.
And there's a price to pay, like with this gigafactory going to a completely different state. You know, the infrastructure was here. In my opinion, there was more infrastructure here to support that kind of a plant than up in the you know, boonies of Nevada. But,
well, now the turns of now the turntables, as Michael Scott has said,
Yeah.
or oh how the turntables, and now here we are making superconductors, and Virginia's getting, or why do I keep saying superconductors? Semiconductors. Virginia's getting cathodes. It's exciting. From Nico, in Europe, many people want to trade in their cars, and that's why online is not an option. Oh, so it's a lot of individual personal trade. I wonder if that's through something like OfferUp or through.
You can actually still do that through Carvana.
Oh, sure.
They'll
Here in the
they'll
States,
just,
yeah.
They'll just come and pick up your car. As soon as that expands worldwide, that's going to be huge.
Although I haven't heard great things about Carvana as of late. They've kind of been going through the ringer with
some imploding taking place. Is
Yeah.
what the
Yeah, but what
scuttlebutt
they're
is.
doing, their
The
business
idea is
model's
great.
Not successful. Yeah, their financials aren't great, or whatever struggles they're having. But what they're doing is the future of car sales for sure.
Yeah, no, it's really cool. I still think Tesla is kind of the future of it, just because it's you know, straight to consumer, and so I think Ford. But yeah, I know Carvana for sure,
Well, so
especially
is Carvana.
with used
Carvana,
cars.
you literally go on their website and they deliver a car to your house.
Yeah. And you can also buy used cars, which is really cool.
Used cars, and they'll pick up your trade-in and take it back when they drop off your new car.
This is not sponsored by Carvana. I just want to point out this is not a sponsor segment. But no, it's funny because you have like specific technologies like that are up and coming, and you know, we'll see what happens with them.
What we're talking about here is exactly what happens when you have a high level of disruption taking place.
Yes.
There's some collateral damage that results from that, but it wakes us up to there's a paradigm shift that occurs. You know, to give you an example, I used to get excited when I would buy a flat screen at a garage sale for $150, and you know, compared to new. And the other day, I needed a 40-inch flat screen, and somebody said, check out Walmart. I did. They were advertising one for $98, and I thought, oh wow, there's going to be a shipping charge on this, you know.
Yeah,
all that.
right.
Turns out it was $98, $106 with tax, and they delivered it for free the next day.
That's incredible.
Oh my, yeah.
I love that.
They are now competing with my garage sale.
Yeah,
efforts, you know?
yeah. No, and it's great to see that when as technology continues to improve and expand, it's gonna end up being more viable for more people. So, you know, and that's like the idea of getting a flat screen in a garage sale at all was unthinkable in something like the 90s.
Yeah.
And now here we are only 30 years later. and that's just something you can do. That's something really exciting for me. Going all the way back to what we were talking about with EV resale. I mean, gosh, think about what the market's going to be like in 10 years. Where if we want to transition to the Bolt segment, that we wanted to talk about, getting to see those on the road all over the place and just having them normally be on the road and not seen as this disruptive technology, even in 10 years, could be something wild to watch.
So it looks like we got a question from TikTok. Bill Wood. He's saying the superchargers were a cluster over the Thanksgiving weekend in Florida and on the toll road. Everybody we went to, every charger they went to was filled, and some people had to wait for half an hour to get charged. Those are spikes and peaks, but there are many, many superchargers or charging stations being built. And again, it's part of the disruption that we're in. We're going to have hiccups like this.
I was thinking about this, and I think about this a lot with the invention of the gas car overtaking horse and buggy. Think about how disruptive that was to create a gas pipeline to create the infrastructure that we have now. And the fact that EVs, it's only been a few years, relatively. What, maybe 10 years, 10, maybe 20. And we're seeing something of a, not necessarily comparable, but certainly viable charging network. And I get that there are still a lot of dead zones. Rich Rebuilds just put out a video where he passed a dead zone going from New Jersey to North Carolina. The infrastructure is certainly not perfect right now. It's very young. It's very infantile.
Fragile.
Very fragile. And so, it's not a surprise to hear about, Tesla. It's not a new phenomenon to hear Tesla superchargers getting filled up, just because, it's a big need. And the way that they're designed at the same time is also difficult, because if some person's on it means your charging speed's going to go down. You don't have that problem with gas. So as that technology continues to develop, we're going to see improvements there. But it's just, we hear you, man. We hear you.
So, those of you that have been watching our podcast for a while, we have a little prop car here.
Ooh, yes, we do.
This is the Tesla second generation Roadster. And it actually went on a trip last weekend. We have its box that we bought it in and packed it up, and it went to the Peterson Auto Museum in anticipation of meeting some of the Tesla dignitaries there and trying to get it autographed. And guess whose autograph we have on the hood of this new Tesla second generation Roadster? Franz von Holzhausen happened to attend, and one of the first things we did was carry the car up to him and said, Franz, would you be so kind as to autograph our new Roadster? Which, by the way, he designed. He was also the lead designer on the Model S project. Wasn't there for the first generation Roadster. That was more Lotus. It was a Lotus Elise, basically. But since then, Franz has definitely been he and his team have been the key designers on anything that's coming out of Tesla, including the Cybertruck, by the way. So we now have a Franz signature on that hood, and we're just hoping and praying that the cleaning people don't come and decide there's a smudge there and wipe off our autograph.
Hopefully, maybe they watch the show.
Yeah.
We hope they watch the show. So you can see, we love Franz.
And then TikTok, we get these questions a lot. We love entertaining them. Wolverine_5.0. He says, is it bright inside? What's with the sunglasses?
Yes, it is.
You have no idea how many lumens are hitting us right here.
That is
true.
true.
The only way that we can talk to you without squinting is by wearing sunglasses. Of course, we have a lot of fun with this sunglass issue. There are other answers to that too, and I'll give you some of the more famous ones that we've received so far.
We got to show TikTok.
Yeah. TikTok, yes, there you go. Some of the more famous responses that we've gotten is, are you guys hungover? And that could have been a possibility, right? Especially with the holidays. But the final one is, we will eventually release a video, and just stay tuned. And one of these days, the real reason behind sunglasses will be revealed, but we're not going to let it go easily. We're going to build up some momentum here with it.
Keep it exciting. Keep it spicy. I saw a comment from Nico. I love getting to talk to Nico. Thank you so much for joining us today, Nico. So he had mentioned that Teslas don't do well in winter, particularly in part because of their design. Their door handles make it hard when it ices over. Can we go back up to that comment real quick?
Yeah, which one?
It was Nico's comment from just a bit ago. Yeah, here we go. So the windows don't have frames and the door handles aren't designed for real winters. And he owns one himself, but he'll probably buy an EQE for the next car. And that's something to keep in count of, is that, is as cool and sleek as the design is, sometimes it's not necessarily for certain avenues.
There was another question, guys, that I'd like to entertain. It got pushed down a little bit there. It was just under Bill Wood's comment there. If we can bring that one back up. Here we go. It's from YouTube. Luis Oliveira from Portugal. Thank you, Portugal. He says, hey guys, great to see you're back. Some guy on social media was yapping the intervention that you do on Tesla batteries is only a temporary fix, and eventually the battery will give problems later. How do we respond to that?
I don't know. How do we respond to that?
I've done that response once before, and it was an online magazine that came to us with the same question. And I said, well, they're having problems, but we've solved that problem, and they haven't. It's that simple an answer. Obviously, we would not be doing this type of work if it wasn't a long term, and we certainly wouldn't have satisfied customers if that was the case. But it can be done, batteries can be repaired, and we do it day after day after day.
There we go.
What's the fire hazard with these batteries? This is a TikTok question from Sumding Wong. The fire hazard with lithium-ion batteries, there are numerous issues. If you overcharge them, take them outside the safe charging methods in the car, you end up with the potential for creating thermal runaway, as they call it, which is really a fire, right? The batteries get hot, it ignites the rest, and next thing you know, you've got a very difficult fire to put out. The most recent controversy surrounding lithium-ion battery fires was what happened with Hurricane Ian in Florida, where there was brackish salt water, conductive water, electrolyte basically, that eventually migrated into some batteries that were submerged, or cars that were submerged. And once you get a conductive element inside a large battery pack like that, you have created what's called a short. And a short means heat and a transfer of current, large amounts of current, which creates heat. So yes, lithium-ion batteries have a propensity to ignite, and once they are burning, they're very difficult to put out. The good news, though, is we're not going to have to live with this technology the rest of our lives. There are new technologies emerging, and eventually the fire risk will be reduced or completely eliminated.
Good answer. Yeah, let's entertain this question, and then I'd love to get into one of these articles that you pulled up. So, Life for Tech on TikTok. Hi there, which electric car brand will potentially take over Tesla, in your opinion, if there is one?
If I have an opinion to offer here, I can't imagine that anybody that has sprinted so far ahead is ever going to be able to be overtaken. There are some leads in life that are just insurmountable. And that particular one, Tesla was first. Let's put it in perspective. They hung in there at a point in time when everybody was saying this is not a viable market. Look at what GM did with the EV1.
Yep.
They openly admitted this is not a viable market. There is no market for electric vehicles. Let's crush them all and get rid of them. In the meantime, Tesla was quietly building up their infrastructure. And they have a 10-year lead at this point in many different categories. Presently, there is no one on the horizon that I could even see coming close to that. The good news is, though, we've got a lot of highly competent companies that are going to be making product like that and will have their own signatures. High quality, perhaps different features and benefits, and same or even superior quality. Lucid is the one that comes to mind.
Right.
Rivian is successful with that. And, even one of the incumbents, Ford, with their Lightning F-150. But anyway, my opinion is I don't see anybody that is, in their rear view mirror at this point in time, looking threatening. I've got an article I wanted to share with you guys, and this is probably a lot of talking points, but we get asked these questions, so it's probably a good one to address. And this article was titled 20 Drawbacks of Electric Vehicles. 20 reasons not to buy an EV, in other words. One of them was range anxiety. Actually, this was the first one. Well, yeah, we're going to concede. It's not the first time that I've driven an EV, my Tesla Roadster, for example, and I look at that speedometer and I say, oh my God, I'm down to 12 miles. And my charging station, or where I'm headed, is more than 12 miles. What am I going to do? And that's called range anxiety. Yeah. Because you're going to have to dig out your cell phone, call a tow truck, and try to get towed to a charging method. However, once you learn to drive your car and you do some planning, range anxiety really becomes, something of the past. Yep. So, but it is a real concern for the newbies or someone new to electric vehicles. So I concede. The next one, number 2, long charging times. Yeah, all right, concede that. I mean,
it's the overcrowded supercharger problem.
Yeah, yep. You can go to a QT and be out of there in 5 minutes, and sometimes there's a line, but it's rare. But you're looking at a half an hour. When you're on a trip, 45 minutes maybe to get that EV recharge.
Per stop, and then you probably end up stopping multiple times easily.
So long charging times, okay, granted. You have to do trip planning, and you have to find the location of your chargers. With an ICE vehicle, you're pretty much assured that you can drive anywhere you want in the United States, for example, and you're going to find a gas station within a reasonable distance. You don't have to do the same level of planning that you do with an EV. So concede, all right, you have to do some planning. Then they say the main playground for EVs is urban areas. And here they're talking about, populated areas where it's easy to get a cab in case you get stuck, and the, out in the boonies, it's going to be difficult if you run out of juice, that type of thing. But the main playground for EVs being urban areas, I'm not going to go with that one.
Yeah, I don't see how that's a drawback so much as that is just kind of a fact. That's like kind of saying, oh, it's a darn shame that these screwdrivers aren't good at driving nails in.
Right.
Yeah, they're not built for that. I think that they're, and I guess that if there's going to be a point to concede on, is that's correct. They operate better in more dense environments where there are more people, you're not driving as far for as long. The ICE vehicle has the advantage over the longer term, as of right, or sorry, a longer drive, I should say, the road tripper. They have that advantage currently. And we talk about this a lot with the up and coming battery technology and motor technology that's able to drive more efficiently, more powerfully. So you get all the same kick that you could get out of a car, out of a gas car, in an EV for making a road trip more viable. And but if you want to concede on that point, I guess, but it's mostly just kind of stating the obvious that no, they're not necessarily road trippers. Although the guys at TFL EV did just do an entire cannonball run from Orange, if I remember right, it's Orange County, California to Orange County in Florida.
Really? Cross country?
Yep,
cool.
Yep,
Okay.
Cross country. They did it in about a week, something like that, or I think it was about a week.
And hopefully no tickets.
Yeah, no tickets. They did it as legally as they could.
Oh, cool.
So and definitely worth checking up on them with that. But they proved, and they said, and they did it in an Ioniq 5. They did not do it in a Tesla specifically because they know how expansive the supercharger network is, and they wanted to see what it looks like currently with the EV, third-party EV market.
Can you do it with a newbie vehicle?
Can you do it?
Words? Yeah,
and turns out the answer is yes.
Cool.
Yes, you can. Right.
So in this article, one of the other things they mentioned was, and this is where I began to realize that they're really out of touch. They said that that EVs are not environmentally friendly because they're not zero emissions, and that lithium-ion batteries are not recyclable. Well, of course,
half of that's true.
Blatantly false.
Yeah. A half-truth is a full lie. That's what I think.
And then, of course, they say there will be a huge demand on electricity, and we have thermoelectric and nuclear, which are choking the earth, and they forgot about solar completely.
Yeah,
which is a very
naturally.
clean form of energy. They talk about too expensive. Top models are well over 100,000. Well, they said it. Top models are over 100,000, but how many are below 100,000?
Yeah.
And what we're beginning to hear now is rumblings that there are EVs now that are beginning to dip below the ICE vehicle costs.
And I'm sure a lot of those are those personal. I've seen a lot of those recently. I believe it's the Solo. Someone in the comments had just asked about Solo. I've been seeing a lot more of those around here in downtown Phoenix. And yeah, I mean, those are definitely cars that are going to dip under the average ICE car price point, only because it's a small, practical in-town vehicle.
Right.
There you go.
Repair difficulties. No more trips to the local shops. Well, that's true because the local shops aren't equipped to service these new EVs. But again, this is a byproduct of the level of disruption we're in. That problem will be solved.
Exactly. Yep.
It currently exists.
It's a not
and
happened yet problem. And hey, I mean, look, credit to what you're doing. I mean, we talked about it before, how you guys are on the forefront of being that mechanic that's able to provide that kind of service.
And there will be lots of us. The whole planet will be blanketed with shops like ours that specialize in electric vehicles. And of course, the rare shops then become the ICE shops.
For the enthusiasts.
They talk about the cars being too heavy, additional tire wear requires more energy, more maintenance. I'm not sure how weight relates to more maintenance.
I think I've heard something about this, that because they require more rubber in the tire, and plus the added weight that creates more friction over time, people have complained that tends to throw up more micro rubbers, microplastics up into the air. I did see a counter to that it's actually not comparable to how tires are now currently. So kind of a non-issue. I get what they're coming from, and it also comes from the same criticism that we just saw with how they're not environmentally friendly because of the production costs and things like that. Yeah, it's the same problem with solar. It is extremely energy dense to create solar panels, sure. But it's about an investment. How much are you willing to put into something that's going to give you a better return in the long run? It's the same thing with nuclear, it's solar, it's all of those have a heavy carbon investment. But, overall, they tend to be doing pretty well. So
we have a question that actually relates to what you were just saying.
Here we go.
From Allison Chen on Facebook. And he's saying, good morning, Pete. What do you think about
Solo? Oh, there it is, yes.
Do you believe it will stay in business? Well, two questions, all right? What do I think about Solo? I think the concept is spot on. I mean, it is just such a cool three-wheeler, single passenger. It's what transportation, I think, was meant to be. I see these people inside a gigantic F-650 diesel, spewing all kinds of hydrocarbons, able to pull stumps out of somebody's front yard, with one guy sitting in there. What's the point in going to a grocery store with that much mass? So it's a more sensible vehicle. Of course, you're not going to take the family. The second question, do you believe it will stay in business? Well, that's a question that can be asked about any of these newcomer electric vehicle companies. It's tough staying in business, and it's a fight. It's a struggle, and I hope that they all make it. But there will be some casualties. There will be investors that get skittish and pull out of companies because they're not seeing the ROI quickly enough, because they're not solving their engineering problems quickly enough to get them to production. And patience, runs thin at times.
Yeah. So a good idea will stick, though.
Yeah.
Sometimes they don't, but unfortunately. But I think with something like Solo, I mean, time will tell, but.
So another issue that they talked about in this article, low top speeds. We're talking about EVs, the shortcomings of EVs, low top speeds. All right, well, what is a low top speed? Well, they mentioned the Golf E, the Kia Soul, that they're just below 100 miles an hour. The way I look at this is, in the United States, where are you going to drive over 100 anyway? Ever, right? You're going to get a ticket, or you're going to endanger the rest of the people on the road that are doing 60 or 70 or whatever, even on a freeway, right?
Not just the United States. Where in the world, aside from the Autobahn?
Exactly,
Are
yeah,
you doing
yeah.
that? Yeah.
And if you really want a car that's going to give you top speed performance, I wouldn't push a sedan into 150-mile range because it's not that stable at those speeds. Get yourself a real car, a Lamborghini, a Viper, you know, something, a Corvette even, that can handle a 200-mile, per hour speed.
Right.
So I don't see that as a real issue, although oftentimes it's a selling feature. Our car will do 130, yours only does 140 top speed. Okay, great. There's a spec.
Okay.
But can you really use
it's
it?
fun.
Yeah, exactly.
And EVs have plenty of fun factor, as we've seen. There's also a lot of fun factor with getting behind a big V8 and letting that thing throw you around town. And we've talked about this before, actually. I know we did, and I think you and I did as well, about how excuse me, I just lost my train of thought for a second. It was about how EVs are quick but not fast.
Yeah, it's the difference between fast and quick,
Right?
Which is 0 to 60, and then fast is top speed. So
Yeah.
the 0 to 60 impresses me a lot more because you get to use that quite a bit more on the streets.
Mm-hmm. I even saw, I think it was Engineering Explained, said that I think a 5 to 60 might even be a more accurate and usable number.
Yeah.
Because people.
Like a rolling start.
Yeah, kind of a rolling start, or just what the actual acceleration is from the crawl speed. I can't remember exactly why he said.
So another objection they had to EVs, tracking. Do you want your every move recorded? Well, welcome to the new ways of doing transportation. These cars are smart. They are communicating with another entity. They're oftentimes nodes on a server's network. And there are a number of reasons for that. That's how they send you software updates to, instead of having to drive your car down for a recall, they just push a firmware update to your car and suddenly your problem is solved. That's not going to go away, guys. The tracking portion is here to stay, and George Orwell predicted it, 50 years ago plus. That's just the reality of the time period we live in. So,
Nice cars have it too.
Yeah, it's not a new thing.
Yeah, yep.
I do empathize with that. I will say, and I do think that on principle we can have our cake and eat it too. Simply by having just a shell of a car, you can throw a battery and a motor in, and that's your EV. And people do that now. People are building those in their garage. Yeah. So the demand is there for just a simple, untracked vehicle that runs on electric power over gas, and so the demand is there for that. And maybe we'll see a decrease in the tracking thing. But you're right. With software issues and things like that, as we've talked about before. Software being proprietary to companies like Tesla, who need specific software engineers to be able to calibrate that for their vehicles and not just throwing it out there just yet for any mechanic or for anyone to simply play around with. Yeah, we're gonna have to, we might have to deal with that for a little while before we can get a system where software is operational enough that you can just throw it into something plain and not have to worry about anyone in charge looking over your shoulder.
So another point they make is EVs are just plain ugly.
Well, that's just rude.
Well, yeah, I mean, look at some of the styling on the EVs, like the Model S was. They hit that one out of the park. But the cars that they cite are the Mach-E. Well, yeah, okay. If you're used to the '60s Mustangs, by the way. The Mach-E looks like a bloated, balloon, basically. Then they talk about the Model X as being one of the plain ugly ones, and they call it egg-shaped. Well, yeah, but if you're into SUVs, it's probably pretty sleek compared to the traditional, vans that used to run around.
Stylish and functional, a little bit of both.
So now we're into subjective elements, that EVs are ugly. I'm not sure that that's necessarily EVs. Any car can be made pretty ugly. And
exactly.
Some people may like, a particular shape or style. So we're into subjective areas there. But anyway, they go on, and then there's, and I won't bore you with the rest of these, but You know, they talk about it can't be your only car, that you need an ICE car for road trips, and we beat that horse to death pretty much.
Yeah. It's something, again, it's per individual basis. We just talked about how, yeah, it's good for certain things more than others, but at the end of the day, look, it's a very fun, very exciting new opportunity. It's helping the planet out. It is a better vehicle per dollar, really.
And they're getting cheaper too. And once
And
that
they're getting
happens,
cheaper.
that will be the tipping point. By the way, Domino's Pizza.
Speaking of,
Yeah, they are actually purchasing 800 Chevy Bolts from GM to add to their fleet. And I didn't realize this, but Domino's Pizza is the largest pizza company in the world.
Is it
I didn't
really?
know that. I would have thought it was Papa John's.
I would have thought it was
or-
Pizza Hut.
Pizza, yeah, there's
Yeah.
another one. But they've been around since 1960. That's probably why. They launched their pizza delivery service in 1960 with a Volkswagen Beetle. I don't remember that. I was around in the
Yeah,
60s,
no.
but
I was
I wonder
not.
if they were the ones with the funny signs on, you know, all over the car.
Probably.
And,
Yeah. Well, and they all still have that. They've got the magnet that they'll stick on the car for certain delivery drivers.
And they
They'll
seem
just
to
use
be,
their own
you know,
car.
they seem to be innovators too. Now this fact shocked me. In 2015, they apparently tested autonomous pizza delivery with cars and robots. And they were attempting to lead the charge in the future of pizza delivery.
Waymo's trying to do that without pizza. Maybe that's their mistake.
They need something to deliver, don't they?
I actually was just I work over in Tempe primarily, and I actually keep seeing those little tiny autonomous drones.
Yeah.
The ones with, like, I think it's 8 wheels or whatever they are. I can't remember the name of the company off the top of my head, but I keep seeing those all over the place. I think it's actually sponsored by Uber. And Uber Eats.
Really?
And
Okay.
it's this little drone that goes around, and you've probably seen them. It's a little pod, and it'll kind of roll its way around campus and make its little delivery route, and then go back. And
Interesting.
it's just it's a little R2D2 style droid.
Well, hats off to Domino's for going EV, and it looks like we've got a Munro Live question.
Oh, I love
It was
those.
A little bit earlier there.
Before we get to that, one last thing about pizza as well. I've been thinking about Rich rebuilds a lot today. Between he just put out a good video about range anxiety and Rivian and things like that. Definitely worth checking out. But he also owns one of the I don't know if I can't remember how he got it, but it was one of those original Dominos. I think it was the i3 that had the built-in pizza oven
Oh, no
in the
way.
back. No.
didn't know
It was
that.
it was a Bolt. I'm pretty sure it was a Bolt. I will have to I want to triple check that, but it's one of those, like, old,
You know,
not old, it's like 10 years old. It's a pizza delivery car.
Yeah, think
and
about this. I
they
mean,
have the
electric
oven in the
vehicle,
back.
oven makes sense, right? They've got electricity.
It's
Yeah, why
already
not keep the
there?
food warm? Yeah,
Why
yeah.
not? It's
Instead
so
of using
genius.
hydrocarbons. Yeah.
I love it.
Wolvers53 says that Munro Live recently posted a video where he suggested that recent EV fires may not be because of bad engineering or manufacturing, but rather using improperly installed or faulty equipment, charging equipment, I think is what he's referring to. This came about and became part of the examples of faulty equipment that they had in front of them. Oh, so they were doing testing. And the use of recharging, e-charging equipment not rated for EV use. Can we add anything to this? I can't. Normally the charging systems have a proprietary plug on the end of it, J1772 CSS, the Tesla Trident plug. Now, if there are companies that are making charging equipment and they're being bought from someplace where there isn't thorough testing, that's news to me. That's definitely worth investigating because, that will make the headlines.
Yeah, and the Tom Malogny from the not fully charged,
One of the magazines.
State of Charge.
I know who you mean?
Yeah. He runs the State of Charge YouTube channel. His whole prerogative is getting people more aware about what their charging options are at home, and that's really important because that's a really great comment. That if it's not on the engineers at the car companies, but it's more on these kind of the infrastructural piece, if you will, that says everything about the viability of the car itself, and then what we can do to help make it an even better system.
TikTok, TikTok question from KYB065. What is the most exciting new battery technology coming out, and when?
Ooh, good question.
Thanks. That's going to be a question similar to what's your favorite sports team. Each of us will probably have, an opinion. My take on this is the most exciting thing that I've seen come out is the nanotechnology, the graphene battery solution, which tends to pack more power. It's one of the most plentiful element on Earth, carbon, and doesn't have the fire risk. And once they perfect the manufacturing process on that technology, I think that will create a revolution in DC storage, which is really what we're doing. That's what the batteries are doing. They're storing DC energy because we have not yet learned how to store AC energy.
Correct. Yeah, that's the next lightning in a bottle, literally. But yeah, all the solid state battery technology, that's huge, especially with what you were just saying. Let's see who else. There's something wrong. EVs have gone up in price so much since they purchased. Who would want to get one? Local state. Okay, so there's kind of two questions in there. One is regarding EV prices skyrocketing, which that's just kind of the whole market as of late. And maybe there's also something to be said about the fact that most EVs right now are still targeting higher end clientele because they're trying to stay afloat in times that are, relatively economically more challenging than they have been in the past. Fair enough. You want to be able to still turn a profit, but you can't sell to as many people. You make them a car they can get. That's just good business decisions, I think. So people always ask about, when are we going to see the $25,000 Tesla? When are we going to see this? It's going to be when the market can support it, for one thing, which kind of seems like a cop-out answer. But yeah, that's how the market works, is that, once people are in a better position to buy cars, they buy cars.
All right, guys, we're at 53 minutes. We want to answer some questions to wrap up.
Sure. It looks like the that cross-country trip that you were talking about, Freckles X20 from YouTube.
Did it in 46 hours, California to Florida.
To Florida, yeah.
46 hours. And that was a hard cannonball, though. They'd been, and it was a true cannonball in that they were staying up through the night, and they would drive pretty much all day, and they would just hit charger to charger. So shout out to those guys. That's a big drive. Buy and sell homes in Arizona on TikTok. Can you jailbreak a Model 3 to make it go faster? He's currently out of warranty and he wants to play around with it.
It can be done. We don't do it yet. It requires getting into firmware and having you sign a waiver so that if anything does burn up, it's on you. But it's all about electronics. It's an inverter. It's driving an AC, three-phase AC induction motor, and you can overdrive. Do you remember the old PC days when you could actually overdrive and overclock a chip?
You still can.
It was faster, yeah.
Yeah, still. I can overclock my PC currently.
Yeah, and sometimes there was a price to pay. It ran hotter, so you put an extra fan on it or whatever.
Oh yeah.
There's a whole cottage industry that's going to emerge that's going to deal with these kinds of aftermarket improvements. It just isn't available at this moment, but it's coming, I assure you.
Yep, and when EVs become like PCs, it's going to be a good time for all of us. They're going to be modular, faster, stronger, more fun.
We always talk about, or try to at least, some of the Tesla and some of the investment stuff that we're curious about. And again, we're not investment
Money
advisors,
talks.
but I found a really great article on Quora. And the question was, why is Tesla down 58% from their high, Tesla stock? And are their financials a smoke and mirror show? And the answer was just the opposite. The financials are doing very well. The company is growing at 40% a year at a time when all but one of the others are declining. Profitability is at an all-time high. They're about to release the Semi, the Cybertrucks, all of which will increase their production by 50%. Giga Berlin and Austin are doing well and also ramping up production on top of this 50% increase with these other vehicle platforms. Profit margins are the highest in the industry, and Model 3 and Y are climbing the sales charts and pushing out the legacy players. Now, having said all that, Obviously, the question now is, why is the stock down? All right. Some of the reasons that they cite in this article is, or in this answer, for reasons not related to Tesla, there's a fear of recession in China, which will dampen all Chinese auto sales. Well, again, fear in the market is what dominates. It's not reality. It's not what's really happening. It's the emotion. It's the psychology that's going to, take the limelight. There's also a fear of recession in the rest of the world. I mean, these days I go on Facebook, any social media site, even my email gets spammed with, pull your money out of U.S. banks. You know, the recession is coming and it's going to be the worst one we've ever had. And, you know, this mentality pervades and it terrifies certain types of investors. They say that podcasters all over the internet are telling people to dump their stock now, that this is affecting all stocks and tech stocks in particular. And then finally, Elon sold billions of dollars of his own stock to fund Twitter. That had an impact, you know, I mean, when the...
Yeah.
So it started a downward trend that caused others to sell. And then you have technical analysts that see a chart shape and that they don't like, so they jump on the bandwagon, irregardless of the incredible fundamentals of the company. Finally, they are saying that experts predict that Tesla will be the most valuable company in the world by the year 2030. That's what I see. You have to have vision in order to see that, and you've got to resist all the noise level stuff.
And that's just what it is, right? Because I think vision is that sort of bridge between the cold hard facts of reality, right? And then the emotion that gets tied to the human action that causes these economic drifts. And so, I mean, the vision's still strong because on paper, everything checks out. And people can make whatever decisions that they want, and that's all, again, part of the human action that generates economic wealth. But again, on paper, it's going to do fine. And the vision's still so strong. So, there's enough of us, I think, that are all able to counterbalance any kind of pessimism in the market that, no matter what happens, I think we're still on the up and up.
All right, guys, we're over an hour now. We got to wrap it up here.
Woo! Good times.
So one final thing, guys, I can't make this up, all right?
Oh.
Question was posed, how does a Formula One pilot urinate while racing? And I thought,
I'm so glad. I have to know.
That's a good question. All right. Obviously, the purses are massive. No one's going to allow that driver to park the race car while he goes to the potty, right? So there has to be some sort of a solution because these guys are in these cars sometimes for hours.
It's all part of the game.
Well, this was interesting. Historically, they used to just let loose in the car as there was no time to stop. This led to teams continuously losing good crew members who stated that they signed up to work on race cars, not clean up another man's urine. So by the 2000s, this led teams to develop a catheter system for their drivers.
Oh.
Suits now have a built-in catheter that the driver installs, and then the suit has a hookup to a reservoir in the car. Now it gets even more interesting. When the reservoir gets full, and that could be because of heavy drinking the night before, whatever, too much coffee in the morning. So the reservoir gets full. Now what happens? Well, there's a discharge system that sprays it onto the exhaust. We're talking about seriously hot exhaust, right? The heat of the exhaust instantly vaporizes the urine, and it's had little or no impact on the race, with only a few drivers mentioning an unpleasant smell from the car in front of them.
I mean...
I can't make this up, so guys, there it is. That one had us chuckling.
And I love that only because it's now providing way too many ideas for the perfect road trip vehicle.
Well, we appreciate all of your questions. It looks like there were some that we didn't get to. We will save those and we will cover those in the next podcast. As always, we really appreciate TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, and I hope I'm not leaving any out this time.
One day.
No, we got 'em.
Spotify.
All right.
That's my favorite question to ask. One day Spotify. But gosh, yeah, thank you all so much for joining. This has been such a fun show.
Tuesdays at 8:30 Mountain Standard Time and Thursday, 8:30 Mountain Standard Time. As always, keep an eye on our YouTube channel because we just released another really cool video about the Peterson Auto Museum, and there's some more in the works right now that will keep you updated and keep you entertained. Again, thank you for joining us. I'm Pete Gruber.
And I'm Zane Courtney.
We'll see you next Tuesday.